This meeting's order. I guess we public comment, review of minutes. I got two different pairs of glasses, and this one I really have trouble reading with me, so please bear with me. They look good, but they don't work with it, darn. Review and approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to look over the minutes and approve them if somebody would so please?
I have a couple of corrections.
Okay,
On the public comment, this is Dave Dombrowski. It was actually Dave Barnowski. B, yep,
Bernowski.
yep. Under the election of the officers, there's a sentence that just kind of ends. Callie Melton and Rivka Hutchinson raised the possibility of separating the roles due to period, which obviously is not a complete thought.
What section is that?
Election of the officers, the first paragraph, second sentence. So I think Callie's position was represented in here. My recommendation for addition would be that the other thing that I mentioned was just the time burden on any individual board member to have those two things separated. So that was the point that I had made. I don't know if there were other points that should have been added to that, but that stuck out to me because it was just ended.
Good catch. I didn't catch that.
On the old business on the second page, the June,
I'm sorry, did you
yes.
get that? As far as the correction? Are you clear? I mean.
Yeah, so I guess my question would be, should I get into this version of the minutes and make these updates right now so that we can vote on the updated version?
yes, please.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. So
Awesome.
sorry to backtrack just a
No
little bit.
worries.
The discussion on separating the roles.
Yeah.
Raised the possibility of separating the roles due to, I think my thought that was incomplete was just recent issues with the minutes.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely Callie's point, because obviously I'm new to the board, so I'm not aware of any of that. So my point was just separation of like time and just more expertise and resources available to the two positions versus having one person do it. So
How do you want me to?
if you want to just maybe we could say raise the possibility of separating the roles, period, leave Callie's thing the way it is, and then add an additional sentence that says something along the lines of Rivka suggested the separation of the duties for a lower time commitment for board members for each duty or something along those lines. Somebody else remembers what I said better than I do. That was basically the gist. Was time commitment and cooperation.
I think I'm good on that section then.
And then on the old business, discussion on event is that formation of a committee to plan the event was discussed and tentatively approved. My impression of that was definitely that it was approved because Callie and I met with Lexi today to start planning. And I don't know if we need to put that Callie and I were the ones who volunteered to do that. Might make sense to include that in the minutes.
So you want me to change the formation of the committee to plan the event was discussed and approved as
Yep.
opposed to tentatively?
Yep, and include, and then maybe Rivka and Callie on the committee to plan with Lexi or something like that.
So Rivka and Callie volunteered
Mhm.
to be on the committee.
Yep, with Lexi. Very nitpicky, but the first word in the first bullet point under strategic planning, Will has a capital I. It's just a minor typo. And then the only other thing is we have on here the MACD Summer Conference and Legislative Day. Because we were working with an old agenda that wasn't actually discussed at all at the meeting, so that should just be removed because it wasn't included. Those were the only,
So you want that entire bullet point? the
yeah,
MAC
because
summer
it
conference.
wasn't on the agenda that we were working from. Because we had an older version of the agenda, and so it wasn't discussed at all.
Okay, I'm gonna delete that entire bullet point. So maybe is everybody else
Yeah.
cool with those
Yeah,
changes?
that's fine. I had
Those
given
are
them-
my only observations.
Yeah, I had given two agendas at that point.
Mhm.
Let me know when you're good, Ben.
I am good.
Do you want to hear him read them over? Or are we confident? Are we good? with-
I feel confident that he was listening.
And if you could print off that copy, so I get one signed.
Yeah, let me look the other ones were easy. I just want to look one more quick time at the election of officers, make sure I put that sentence in there.
Okay.
If everybody's comfortable, then I'll comfortable with the new revised. We look for motion to accept minutes as print, as newly printed. How's that?
All right, I make a motion to accept the revised minutes.
Support?
Support. Kelly
Supported.
supported.
My voice cracked. Yeah.
I barely
I did
heard her, and
though.
I'm sitting right next to her, so.
We all approve.
Has been moved and supported. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as newly printed.
Aye.
All righty. Has anybody got any questions on staff reports? I'm assuming we're gonna get yours later, right, Megan?
No, I can do mine if no one has any questions. I'll do mine and then we'll move over to,
No,
Yeah.
it's in here, but a lot of times is there anything you need to talk about that isn't in your report?
no,
Or it'll be covered?
Yeah.
I ain't singling you out, I just,
no, but if you have any questions on any of the reports, I'm happy to answer. If your questions are not ones I can answer, I'll refer to the technician and get those answers for you.
is there anybody who has any questions on staff?
I have a quick question. I'm not sure if it falls under reports, but I don't see it elsewhere. You had noted about the employees that are either going to be having upcoming maternity leave or leaving. What is the process or the plan for replacing them? Is this the best place to ask
Sure, I
about
mean,
that, or?
It's a fine place. So I did put in my report for this month that my goals will be to create our paternal leave policy for maternity and paternity leave.
Mhm.
So that will be a piece that we'll be voting on next month. So that will be one of my focuses. The second piece will be creating the position descriptions that we're going to need for adjusting this individual leaving. We'll have to change some of the duties and the way the roles are currently positioned. So this is my team and I will be working on that this week and then creating those position descriptions by the end of the month. So those, it will be in your packet and we will be talking about it at next month's meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you have Alex as the highlight.
Alex is the highlight.
He's
Yeah.
the highlight of the evening. Alex, you have the floor.
All right, so just here to talk about some of the updates for the RCPD program. We had 13 applications. 13 applications for our sign up period, which just ended a week and a half ago. So it was very successful. So we have the capacity to do those. We're relying heavily on Katie Drosha from Kent County to help us complete those. And then right now, we still only have an acting district conservationist. It's Matt Sainel over at Kent County as well. But we're working along. We've got a significant amount of the conservation planning done for those applications. Those include practices like cover crops, brush management, secondary containment for fuel. We have some roofs and covers. I'm not sure what that project is, but it's one of the things that we offered. And then some other erosion control stuff. So we had really good interest and we're excited to see what's gonna come out of this in the years to come, because I think the more people hear about it, there's only gonna be more applications. Our next big deadline is June 17th. We need to finish up our conservation planning. So that's gonna entail the map making, contract stuff with the landowners, and making sure that we cross all our Ts, dot all our Is in terms of all the policy that's behind these plans and getting the landowners money. Yeah, 14 applications is a lot, but it's not unmanageable. So that's kind of where we're at right now. You have some fact sheets. I think Sarah might have given these out at the last meeting, but I'll leave a stack them back here for you guys. So any questions that you guys had at this time?
Could you do you have a general sense of like where some of these applications are coming from? Do you know that off the top of
You
your
know,
head?
I would be hard pressed to point to like one geographical area. It's pretty spread around
Okay.
Ottawa County, maybe trending towards northern Ottawa County, and then we've got a handful from Kent County, but I'm not sure where exactly geographically they
Well, that's
are.
great, though.
But that'd be an interesting thing to draw up, see where we've got those
Yeah.
those applications from.
Just a general question, maybe you don't have the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a rough idea how many dollars are involved with the 13 applications and how much area they would cover.
I'll have to get you numbers on both of those because I haven't finished the price estimates for those projects yet.
Perfect.
They vary fairly widely. I think I saw a number for a cover crop application that was close to $50,000 or $60,000, and then a few other applications that are near that. So I'll get some numbers in the coming month to
Thank you.
share with you guys.
So that was a
Okay.
single application you were
Yeah.
saying?
Mhm.
That's a lot. That would be a lot of
Acres.
acres.
A lot of acres. It was a really, really big application. So
Okay.
I think within this year, we'll be able to, with these cover crops, actually cover a significant portion of the goals that we have for the entire project. Then we'll be able to tabulate those pretty soon. So next month, we'll be able to get some numbers on that.
One more question.
Yeah,
When that comes to okay or whatever, is that public knowledge? Who's applying for them?
so we have to keep all records related to application information confidential, but we can talk about, the number of acres that we've done work on, the types of practices that we've
Yep.
helped install, but obviously any client information is confidential. Is your question?
Yeah, I do. Are we tracking where applications are coming from, not as far as geographical, but from a outreach and marketing standpoint, where they're hearing about the program? Like, are we asking them, did you hear about this through a relationship with the
Mhm.
district already, or through a specific individual or a Facebook post? Or I think that could be
Right.
helpful in determining what outreach
Mhm.
activities are being most
We
successful.
definitely should be, and I know we can ask all the applicants we have right now where they first heard about the programs, and that'd be a good thing to add to our.
Alex, isn't that on the intake form that Sarah put together?
It is, and I don't know if we've really been utilizing it.
Mhm.
A lot of times what happens is, it seems like it's word of mouth,
Mhm.
or they just get transferred right to us at the office, and then usually Kyle will go out on a site visit that week. But that's a good reminder, actually, we do have that intake
is.
form to be able to utilize that and get that demographic information, because eventually we will need to answer
Mhm.
that stuff when it comes to reporting at the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome, thank you. Got this information back here. I'm not gonna stick around for the whole meeting, but feel free to call, email, whatever. If you got questions in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Old business. Summer conference. MACD summer conference.
Yeah, so we have our June conference coming up, and I know we spoke a little bit about this 2 months ago when I was here. I wasn't here last month, so I apologize. Our summer conference is June 5th through the 7th, and just around the corner. Right now, we have several individuals that are obligated to go to this conference. So our meat technicians and myself are both required to attend this conference, and our funding comes through the meat grant. I also send Sarah Bowman and Ben Jordan as well, because there'll be a lot of sessions around water quality and water in general that will benefit them. And so they typically, Ben's role typically goes. Both of those positions will be paid, they'll be paid through the Sand and the Crockery grant. And then I also have asked Lexi to go this year. So this will be the first time that she's done this conference, and hers will be paid through the district. We have about $500 to $700 remaining in our budget for outreach. And one of the questions I have are any board members interested in attending this conference in June?
It's Lansing, correct?
This one is in Bay
Bay
City.
Bay City.
Mhm.
I would like to virtually. It's being in the summertime, it's hard to put the kids up. But I definitely want to virtually.
I think there are going to be recorded sessions, so I'm sure that will be a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested in a virtual option as well. I'd like to go in person. Logistically, I'm not sure if I can. And I don't know if it is worthwhile to, like, it's much easier to say, well, I can go one day or the other without, the biggest thing is the overnight stay. My husband works third shift, so, then we'd have to find somebody to stay overnight with the kids, or he'd have to take vacation. So definitely the interest is there, but there's some logistical concerns. And like I said, I don't know if it would be still worthwhile, both from a funding standpoint, to pay for my registration, et cetera, to just go up for one or the other of the days. So.
There's 2 conferences in the year. The second one in late October, early November is a better one for board members to attend, because there's more sessions geared towards boards than there are in this summer conference, which is more geared to technical staff.
That's good to know.
Do you have a list of meetings that you're gonna have?
Not yet. They haven't come out with an
So you should
agenda.
Send these guys the.
Mhm. As soon as I get the agenda, yeah, I'll share it with you guys.
Megan, just a quick reminder, I probably will not be going just because it's close
Oh,
to our
yeah,
day.
Never mind. Yep, we'll take you off.
So if you get that
Shoot, it's been
call.
cooking for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, this is just public now, right?
No, we've known for a while. I just sat on it forever.
Keep it quiet.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Alrighty, well, if, any other board members thinking? All right. Info. New business. I had brought up with, Megan, going over some few things, the last couple weeks, months that I've been on. We always have such a hard time getting financials the first Tuesday of the month. Does anybody have a problem with the second Tuesday of the month to have our meetings? Second.
The other piece I wanted to pull in, that
The one that-
financials is a big deal, but what we run into probably 4 times every single year are holidays.
Yeah.
Labor Day.
4th of July is always an issue,
Yeah.
because I can tell you right now, I won't be here in July. Labor Day, also an issue. I won't be here Labor Day, and I'm not gonna make it a priority. And New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, also an issue. So we run into at least 3 every year.
And sometimes Halloween is as well, because if it's
Yeah.
like on a weekend and people are trying to do the things that,
So
So we're
I would
marking on
urge-
this For
I know you
not
never
messing
want
up
to change.
holidays.
Yes, well, it is. We're not messing up holidays.
Well, I mean, she's gotta scramble if she can to
Alright.
get financials.
And you get the financials
She
early
usually
on
gets
time.
them-
You get them
usually
ahead of
years,
time
yeah.
rather than at the meeting. So
So I
It
guess
does.
my question is there a problem with a change of date?
I have no.
so I would say
Roger, do you have a problem?
my only thing would be, we probably wouldn't want to change it for next month because of the fact that we're already doing the event, the annual event on the
Mhm,
14th. So then, like, we put that there because it wasn't the board meeting night, and then we'd be right back into creating our
Isn't
conflict.
isn't there a Tuesday between that one and the?
No, the 7th, because the
You're
first
right,
is a
you're right.
Wednesday, it's
Yeah.
just a weird way that it falls.
Let me ask a question
Let's change it in July.
to that. Well, okay, we'll come back to that.
Sorry.
No, I mean to cut you off. No, we'll come back to that question of your event and what day it is and that. I guess, what do we need to do to, I mean, do we need to vote or can we just wave our wand and say?
No,
that's
you
it?
need to vote. Someone needs to make a motion and then,
I move that we change the regular meetings to the second Tuesdays of the month, starting in July.
I second.
I would like to ask a question, I guess, before that. Our annual meeting or our program of next month.
Mhm.
For the last 15 years, we've always had our board meetings on the night of our annual banquet or whatever. It's never been a problem up until this last time. Do we need to swap a night? I mean, do we need to be,
well, you mean like combined it? to
combine it like we have again for since time began, other than this year?
Yeah.
So obviously I can't speak to anything that happened in the past, but I can tell you what we talked about with Lexi today. So kind of her vision for the night was to make it more informal, more an opportunity for networking, and people getting to know each other, rather than doing a dinner, to do more finger foods and refreshment style thing, to have a much shortened like program. So the idea is for the event to go from 5:30 to 7:30, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but, and then to have like basically, or 5 to 7. Paul, do you remember the exact hours, times? Anyway, but then to have
Somewhere in the
6
middle of the
o'clock.
event, I think is what.
Yeah,
Lexi-
6 o'clock, have like a little opportunity to talk about the history of the district, have a slideshow going on in the background about programs, information. Callie really felt it was important, and we had discussed a couple meetings ago to recognize last year's of service, so having a piece about that. So because we're not having formal seating tables, etc., I think actually completing any business during that time would kind of be difficult.
In the past, we got together like a half an hour before and we
Gotcha.
did our meeting.
It was just.
It was a
Mhm.
quick,
quick
just
and
what do you,
done,
what do you gotta
3
have done
sentences
this
and
month?
done.
And then it wasn't okay, everybody sit through our meeting. It was we go off and do that quick a minute. And then we come in and have it wasn't a combined deal. It was kind
Well,
of.
we have
boom, boom.
Hemlock Crossing from like 4:30 to 8:30. I mean, so if people don't have work obligations or whatever that they need, my schedule is flexible. I can be there right at 4:30 and we can meet while we're doing
Wait, what
setup.
time does it start?
I would assume 6. I
Let
mean,
me,
don't
yeah, let
you-
me
really
pull
might
up my
wanna have
notes so I
over
can
before.
tell you exactly. 'Cause I wrote it down.
Our meeting didn't last 10 minutes.
No.
And obviously, I mean, Megan, you would probably be able to speak to what the agenda items will be next month and how much time we need, but.
Well, I have-
Short and sweet.
Yeah. Well, we'll have the paternity thing on there, we'll have that
Yeah.
policy piece.
Mhm.
And then
Financials.
we'll have financial, what was the other piece that we just talked about? Oh, we'll have the new position description needs to be approved. Well, and actually, I kind of need to do that before that meeting, so we'll have to do that in between, which will be a reason for our HR committee, because I need to have that posting out this month, so that won't be on there. Otherwise, I don't know.
So we have Hemlock Crossing reserved
think
from
fast
4 to
today.
8. The plan is to have and this is still flexible at this point because we just started working on invitations and everything today. It's not hard to bump the time by half an hour. But what we had discussed was doing the event from 5 to 7, just we have an hour of setup, an hour of tear down, and to do the official program, short little thing at 6. So that's the plan. I don't think there's anything that would obstruct us from doing a meeting and doing a few agenda items, but I don't know.
Yeah, I can keep it short and sweet. for the most
I
part.
Again, I mean, I'm just
I can't think of
trying
anything
to
big.
not come to 2 meetings. I mean, we all are, and
What?
Darn, I love those.
pay for our, another trip down here. I mean, I'm just looking at the essence of time and efficiency. So that was the only reason I brought it up. So if anybody has a problem with it, then we'll, and I guess that would make a difference on how we vote
Right,
as far as this next meeting. That's why I bring it up now, as far as when we start our second Tuesday meetings.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it. I can make that work. So if you guys, you want that, it works for me.
the only other thing to note is obviously the commission meetings are on that
Tuesdays.
Tuesday, but they're usually done by then,
They're
usually,
done, yes.
unless there's like, you
Yes,
know, a
unless-
mask mandate
unless-
being
yeah,
discussed or
yes.
something.
And it could last.
Like
Now
Sunday.
miss your meeting.
Is that why we didn't do it before? Was it commission?
They were in Washington DC.
Yeah,
They had some,
Yeah, that was the earlier one, was their, go to their conference. Well, I guess then again, as far as back to our, original motion to make our meeting start.
Why don't I amend it to make it the second Tuesday, just next month, and I amend my motion to reflect in June.
And then we'll need to adjust our time for next month. Do we want to include that with this motion or make that a separate?
so we're doing it at 4:30, is that the?
We have,
Can
have-
can we do the business meeting like from 5 to 5:30 or 5 to 5:15? I mean, you
I mean,
have came in
I-
and sat up. I mean, you tell me how your day is.
I
looking.
feel like it would be better to do it later rather than
Do it
earlier. I
after the
think,
event?
yeah. I mean, if we wanted to do it at like, we could just do it at 7 still. Like there, because we still have the space till 8. They'll
We're
be
gonna wanna
cleaning
get
up
out of
and
there.
stuff going on, but
I think we'll want to get out of there by that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I
It'll be
think
a
that'll
long
be,
day.
pose a challenge.
But we gotta set a time for the public. if
Mhm.
they
Right.
supposedly wanna come.
Why can't we do 4:30? Is that too hard for you guys to get to?
it's fine for me.
It's fine
I
for me,
can-
but how
I can
many,
do
how
that.
many public people are you gonna get to a meeting and how many public people
But
are we gonna have to attend at 5?
Post it.
Right.
So it's more of like an open house, so we're not expecting people to come and sit down. And I think for our
That's yes.
professional partners,
They're
I
gonna
think
come
it's gonna
early.
be easier for them to just come to the office, come by, celebrate us, grab a refreshment, and then go home,
Mhm.
rather than asking them to go all the way and then come back out, since we're not offering a full catered meal this year.
What's
I
the
think we're
date?
better off meeting first
I think so too.
Mhm.
before.
It's the 14th.
Mhm.
Yep, get it done.
If we meet
Yep.
from 4:30 to 5, that
Mhm.
gives us plenty of time to do whatever leftover setup we have to do to meet, greet, socialize
Mhm.
until we start the event at 6
Mhm.
and do our celebration, and then we'll be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be tired.
Yeah, and I think especially now that we have the Zoom option, if people are really invested in seeing the meeting happen, they can, I don't think 4:30 is necessarily more
More
obstructive.
I could see that work better for our professional partners coming right from work.
Mhm.
I figure they'll be more interested than in an open house,
Yep.
you know, about our accomplishments than most.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what does our motion read? Ben, can you read it
But
back
it
to us?
means can get.
I don't have it
right?
yet. Do I need to put?
So Kelly, do you want to
Ah.
restate it then?
To move the motion is to move our meetings to the second Tuesdays of the month, beginning in June.
Yeah, so
With an adjustment
so
of
how
the
do I
time in
write
June to
that's
4:30.
being amended then.
It was going to start in July. We amended it back to June.
Just skip that, just start.
I
just
just,
do it.
yeah, just.
Was there
Whole
support
new
in the first
motion.
one? Did-
Yeah, I.
We
Okay,
did have
alright.
support,
Darn
so.
Sorry.
Depends
We
on
had
the
to
type
support
of-
it.
So yeah, we were gonna start in July. Now we have amended it to start in June.
Do you want me to just go back to that original motion and just change it?
Yes.
I think, well, we gotta tell them that we amended it. Ben, sorry, that's a long way around the barn.
Yeah, that's all right. That's what I was asking.
Yep.
Do I just change it or do I have to?
No, we have to
specifically-
show that we amended it.
And we do have to make note of the June time is at 4:30 rather than 7 to accommodate the meeting. The not board meeting, the open house, we'll just call it.
Do we need that? Because then,
Well, we have to
Mm.
notify of the
You have to
time
publish.
change,
yeah, but we
right?
don't need this in our motion. Our motion. Is that gonna make confusion? Because then we're gonna have another motion to say that our meetings are late. After June are gonna be the other time.
It's, Open Meetings Act stipulates that that time will have to be published within 18 hours prior to the event. So Megan's already on top of that. So that probably doesn't need to show.
So we don't need a time per se in our,
Right.
in our motion.
That was just my
That's what I
question
was-
with the,
Didn't think we
That's
needed a
concern.
time in our motion.
Yeah. Okay.
How we doing, Ben? Clear as mud?
Absolutely not. But I'm gonna write it down and then we'll figure out how to have it work. All right,
Sorry.
so
What do you need?
I think I got it.
Okay. Callie, Rivka,
Mhm.
all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Passes. Communication expectations.
So this was, you had mentioned, Matt, that you really wanted to give each board member an opportunity to, or some time on the agenda, kind of like our board reports reflect. A time for the board to, say if there's anything that they have come across, anything they have done. And just a time for that board member to state what their activities were for the month, if they had any, or if they had any concerns or needs, that kind of deal. But you had mentioned that.
Yep, I didn't see it printed as elegantly as this. I'm
I
sorry
know.
to see it. You threw me for a
With
minute.
my-
I come
my
up with that communication expectation. So, yeah, I guess, my thought behind that was to take a short amount of time,
Mhm.
2 to 3 minutes, I think, and have it be a session where we can talk about what we want to do, what we did. We're gonna try to keep it positive. And I guess I was thinking something more along the lines of like a 2-minute. If it turns into something we want to discuss, we can throw it on the next agenda. And it just gives us a chance to all, if you want to air something that's bugging you, that's what you do, in a positive light. Like I say, I don't want to turn it into a gripe session, but I mean, a positive communicative expectation. So that was my idea behind it. So I mean, if that's something you want to do, I don't believe we need to vote on it, but I mean, we'll stick it in the agenda somewhere, and I'm thinking somewhere more along the end, at the back end of the,
Often that's what it is at the end.
Yeah.
You do a round table.
I
Yeah.
think that's a great idea.
Like good and welfare is
Yeah.
what we call it.
I think that's a great idea too. Just because one of the things that we talked about, of course, during the strategic planning was the importance of the board, really taking an active role in the goal of spreading awareness. And I think that's a great opportunity for us to kind of share the ways in which we're doing that, spaces that we're talking about the conservation district, and, maybe get some collaboration going. Or just, I think that's a great idea.
already. Policy review. Consider all policies conflict of interest, public expression. Yeah, we've had some discussions in the past about how we handle ourselves in public and going forward and this and that. So I guess I've kind of dredged this up again, with, as board members, we don't speak for the board. We don't take their policies and go speaking publicly on them. I guess, how am I trying to say that? We have people in the conservation district that's their job, and they take our message forward, and they're the policy, not the policy, but I guess the experts in that field. I don't think us as board members have a place in speaking about how to rectify a problem technically. Again, I mean, we have people amongst us that, that's what they get paid to do and that type of thing. So I guess I would just like to bring that up again as far as, if we want to discuss it further. I mean, if anybody wants to, we can take that a little farther, but I just think we have to watch ourselves as board members. We are board members. We don't per se carry the flag. We have a team that carries the flag for us. We direct them as far as where to go and what to do. I think that's my feelings on it. If we were a hospital board, I can't tell someone how to do surgery. And I think as a conservation district, we're all involved in conservation efforts, but as far as, what we do in our own time is probably we shouldn't cross that line. So does anybody want to throw in anything there or?
I think the only thing that I would add to that, I think absolutely if there are like opportunities for expert speaking or paid speaking opportunities that we can utilize our staff, that's great. The only thing is, it definitely is our job as the board to build that awareness and build community relationships. And, like right now, working with Lexi, and one of the things that I'm stepping in to help do is get sponsors for the event. I had an opportunity this last week, Independent Bookstore Day, Blue Stocking Bookshop was like, hey, come and tell everybody what the conservation district is, and it was a great opportunity. And a lot of the questions, people were like, well, what about this? I was like, well, call our office. Like, there's a staff member that can answer that. So that would be my only caveat, is definitely, I think it is important for us to acknowledge and really promote the idea that we should be ambassadors in the community, but also for sure relying on the expertise that exists on our staff, because there's a reason we have multiple people doing these jobs, is because it's, the expertise far outside of one individual. So that would be the only thing I would add to that.
No, I'm totally, we're supposed to be cheerleaders, but that's about it. So.
So I guess my question is, what are we trying to determine?
I think we're all in agreement with what you just said. But
All right.
What's
So we're the board of the hospital. We can tell people about the fact that we do surgery,
Mhm.
but we can't tell them how we do surgery.
Correct.
Yeah.
Unless we're commissioned to do that.
I do have one thing to say.
And as board, go ahead, Doug.
I guess in the past, Kevin knows that on the past board, we made things that you could say, and I honestly don't remember what they are, but say certain things related to the board. I guess for me, go district law and just leave it at that. Go on what district law is for our district. And it's up to the person to decide. Like Rivka said, what you're talking about, I think that's perfectly fine. It's just what you do and how you do it.
We made a disclaimer the last time, which I use when I go out and talk about the conservation district. I've used it every time. It's on my PowerPoint, and I don't think we, need any more than that.
Another piece I was thinking, guys, too, when it comes to conflict of interest, and several of you have brought up to me, if you're receiving cost share through one of our programs, how do we want to handle that situation? It is absolutely okay that each one of you, if you're eligible for cost share in one of our programs, applies. But what do we want to have in place so that we feel and you feel protected on that? So one of the things that I read on a lot of this nonprofit stuff would be, if you're receiving cost sharing program, you disclose it to the board. And then if we vote on any items that are around surrounding that program, that person steps back and they don't vote on that item. Yes.
That was how I understood the policies when I read through them. It was
Okay.
exactly what you just stated.
So I think it just making sure that, so then as we move forward, that we all feel comfortable. No one feels like they're, they have to keep this under the cover. You can just, I am receiving cost share, I'm getting a septic through the Bass River grant, okay. So if we vote on that, they just step back.
Well, wasn't there also a rule, I think, in here that talked about like a kind of like publishing a disclosure, and having that included with the minutes? Too. I mean,
Well, I think what Megan just brought up was like to state it at a meeting. I think that would automatically go in the minutes, right? If you say,
Could say that
this
the
is a
staff-
notification that I am receiving XYZ, that's gonna go in the minutes by virtue of the minutes, right?
Okay.
Like, am I I
No,
mean,
think
maybe
you're
I'm
right,
missing
and then
something, but
it would solve that step. We don't,
yeah.
then it wouldn't be an extra step for us to have to go through. And it can happen even in that 2-minute discussion, just, hey, I applied for a septic, receiving funds, so is it recruise? Is that?
Recuse.
Yeah.
Recuse.
I think, I mean, that'll be in the minutes that somebody reclused.
Yes.
So,
So that was the only one that I've had others talk to me about, and I just think it needs to be on in our heads.
Yeah.
And we should probably,
We're gonna make it too complicated. for Ben.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay so far.
Have we been in a situation like that?
not really,
I don't
but I do
think so,
have
we
people have asked me, say, hey, I'm getting some cost share, what does that mean? I don't wanna do step on any toes, that type of thing.
So I'm gonna use myself as an example. If I apply for cover crops for my corporation or my farm,
Mhm. Then that's
is
conflict
that
of
a
interest.
conflict of interest?
Yes, and so then you.
So
would-
when you vote on a Bass River or
then you would-
grant, I don't vote?
Yes,
Right.
If it affects your property.
Mhm.
so if that is.
So how much, is somebody gonna, I don't think of that all the time.
Right, yeah.
But
it's
we
tricky.
really
But we haven't voted,
want that.
and
grant,
really, we
we'll-
don't,
And he falls in the district, so what does it matter?
yeah,
I don't wanna say no to it, because there could be a situation, but
I asked Megan the question because in the past,
Mhm.
10, 12, I never took no money. And it was like, son of a gun, there's a lot
What
of
do you
money.
mean you never took no money?
Took no money from the programs while I was
Gotcha.
on the board previous. And then I caught a bunch of flack from some other higher ups in the county that said, why isn't anybody on the board taking, here, you don't think the programs are worth anything? 'Cause
Right.
you're not participating. So I'm like going, ooh, that's a double-edged sword. So, then we came back around, went the other way. So again, I mean, it's,
And in that situation, you just would say, I'm not voting on it.
Yeah.
like I say, I mean,
So-
to not vote on, again, your farm sits in the grass or in the Sand Creek, watershed.
Yeah, that's.
That's a broad brush.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's a lot different.
Exactly, that,
it's not like we're putting him first in the list. who
Right.
wants to
No, no,
month.
no.
So my reading, and feel free anyone to correct me, my reading of the board policies and procedures, and also doing some additional reading on case law to understand exactly what they were talking about, is that you're precluded from saying this benefits me if it's something that benefits you just by virtue of living in the district. Because obviously, all of us indirectly benefit from having clean water and access to water and fewer invasive species. But because it benefits all of us equally, or all of the people in that area equally, but if you specifically are getting cover crops for your specific farm, that would be when you would have to say, I've applied for this program. Or like Megan said, you specifically got the septic program.
You applied for it or you received it?
That's
That's
a
a
good
difference, too.
question.
Yeah, receiving.
I would,
I think you can,
That's a good question.
I would think one
Receive
could
it without
apply, but if you, without having to say anything, but if you
Mhm.
receive it, that's when it becomes something you'd want to say to the board.
Right.
I mean, I was straight up with you. I'm one of the recipients, the people of the 13 or whatever, they're for the
Mhm.
RCPP.
Mhm.
I mean, but I'm not the guy with $50,000, thing coming, but, so again, I mean, I have no problem voting for yes, if the RCPP needs something or needs our support or whatever, I don't feel as though that's a conflict of my interest because I'm making, I mean, as we sit on this board, we make available to the county programs.
That's right.
That's our first and foremost job. I don't think just because I bring a program or vote on a program for the county that, it's gonna pad my pockets. I think that's a long way around the barn to poke that up, somebody's getting a conflict of interest there. But again, if, we get to the end and they say, oh, we want to kick, $5,000 more into the RCPP, then I think I better reclude from that vote, but again, I mean, if we're blanketing,
No, we don't vote on that.
again, but I mean, I'm
We do
just
very
taking
little
that
voting,
out of the,
Yeah,
It's
really.
almost-
On the grants themselves.
It's
right.
almost, this is almost a non-issue
leadership.
Right.
conversation, because we don't, after we get the grant, we almost never vote on anything.
right,
Now, that doesn't mean it couldn't happen where we have to like move line items from, let's say, from the septic line item to the best management practices, and then when I don't even know why I vote
That's
on
for the
that.
board
I
member.
would
Right.
bring that to you. So yeah.
Well, and the only thing I could see is like, if it's in Chester Township versus Robinson Township. That's a clear conflict because, you know, we're in our specific areas, in which case, when, if we're trying to make a decision which grant to go after or whatever, maybe that would be a case.
But then you're not receiving money,
Well, right.
right? So then it's,
Yeah.
If I may, yeah, offer a bit, because I don't think there's anything wrong with putting something, a disclosure. I think the issue might come from if somebody were to come out of the woodwork and say, Matt Hale benefited and I didn't get any money. And then, so then you're just covered, right?
So put the
in the
notice in the minutes
minutes.
so it's public.
Yeah.
and really, we'll
Put
never
it to sleep.
almost ever have to worry about recusing ourselves because we're not gonna vote on much.
A couple years ago, the county gave us an extra $5,000 towards our E-Crip. The county had some money that, and
That would be a
they
situation,
they
right?
earmarked it towards, you know,
Man, yeah.
not Matt Hale, but they come along and said, we got $5,000 a year, you know, towards, you know, cement pads and fueling pads and this and that.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, that was a kind of an after fact. They said, you know, go out and, you know, go out and find somebody, give this $5,000 to you. You know, and again, I mean, if I wasn't in that, I mean, I voted for it, yep, yeah, we'll take the 5,000, we'll go, you know, we'll go try to find a farmer to get that too. So I mean, that type of thing.
That
I
would
mean,
definitely-
you're, again, it's very rare. I mean, RCPP gets a grant, it's out of our hands who, and there's hoops and loops you gotta jump through to, you know, to make it that high up anyway, so.
I think you're digging way too far into the weeds.
Good. That's good,
Because
because I
The
just
big,
wanted
you
to
have to look at the
be
big picture. The big picture, this organization is going after grants.
Yeah.
You want to go after grants. And each one of us, you know, if we have an opportunity to get a grant, we should get it.
Well, like I said, I wanted to bring that
Okay.
sort of thing up
The
ahead
only,
of time.
can I add one thing? Maybe we want to have a separate conversation or maybe not. The one thing that occurred to me reviewing the policy and procedure handbook, and I'm going to reveal my age, is if we should have a new policy or an explicit policy related to social media. You know, because for
We
me,
have
as
it in our
somebody
personnel
who,
policy.
okay, so it's
I'm-
just not
I
in the
think-
policy and procedure handbook?
Yes, our personnel policy.
Because
is
we
much
may
more
want to
updated.
consider
Designing.
adapting something like that for this policy and procedure guide specifically. So
I'm
like, I
gonna
mean,
dou-
for
I'm gonna
right
double check.
now, like on my Twitter that I have set up specifically for conservation, I just have the disclaimer that's like all tweets my own or whatever. But that was just my best interpretation, and I think it behooves us as we move forward and that becomes, you know,
But it
more
just
of a
says in the
thing,
policy that it just can't go through again.
right?
We have an internet policy,
Okay,
we have a computer policy.
in the policy, in the personnel guide.
Mhm. So this one is much more up to date than that piece.
Mhm.
I actually didn't even know that existed until about my second year.
And because the personnel really applies to personnel, that was my only thought, like,
But you were all
do we want to
personnel.
adapt
I
something
mean-
specifically for this handbook? Just a thought, if we don't feel like it's necessary, that's fine too, but that was one thing that came to my attention and reviewing
Well, that's
the-
kind of what I want. I want to be able to update this, and the reason I want to go through it is so that we can update it past 2004 to something that works for this board today. I'm gonna guess a lot of those things we're gonna be happy with, and we're just gonna adjust a little bit, but there might be additions we want to make, and then as we go, as we grow, or not grow, as we move on, and we should just revisit this as well as our personnel policy once a year, just to make sure that we're up to current date, current personnel, current board type of feel. And the same thing I'm doing with the maternity and paternity thing. I'm gonna add a policy in our personnel, well, that you'll vote, and we'll see if, I think that we should be updating to fit who we are today. And going back to what Callie said and what all of you have said, and it protects us, it keeps us safe, and I want to make sure that we have those pieces and parts in place now. So if you see something, I'm not opposed to putting it together.
Would it be helpful in any way for me to do some research specifically on other boards or government organizations, what they have listed as their specific social media policy and present that at the next meeting?
I'm not-
What's Michigan Conservation say about that?
MACD, with Michigan Association of
Yeah.
Conservation, District, with respect to an internet policy for boards, one does not exist.
Yeah.
When's the
And I
last
think-
time we came up with a new set of rules? 'Cause the one we had
So
was
we've got
2014.
equipment and internet. We have an equipment internet policy. Acceptable uses, communication software, security, harassment, violations, but
Well,
no,
why don't
no
we look
social
into that?
media.
Why don't we look into it for next month and
Maybe
Bring it-
maybe
we don't have
July
one.
bring back,
instead.
some- bring back.
We don't
some
have
info
one as
on
a
it.
county.
Okay.
people either.
No, social media.
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
No, for the employees, but not
Mhm.
for the board.
That's interesting.
Committee assignments.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory here.
So typically, or in the past, we've had 2 committees, and my thought to committees like these, I think there's other times we do work together. But these type of committees I foresee are the type of committees I need to be able to utilize to talk to in between board member meetings to get things done that would typically need more board discussion. So, for example, we're gonna talk about this soon, but we need to buy vehicles. So Doug and I have been working back and forth on our budget projections. If, let's say, we're gonna talk about this and you guys are gonna approve or disapprove it, but if I needed to do something in that period of time, those 2 board members would then be able to guide me without having to utilize the whole board. And they come back and say, we approved this, this is, they're.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Mhm.
For example, like I'm offering someone a position type of feel. I'll have a HR committee, they'll be on an interview committee with me, that type of thing. So finance and HR are the 2 committees that I really utilize throughout the year quite a bit. And would require additional time. The HR committee would be 2 board members that not at the same time, so you share these roles. So that's the one piece that I want you to know. And we don't have a ton of HR on our plate this year. So there is that piece that could change. But I do have a key staff member who will be leaving that we're going to need to replace. I will have to have a committee, interview committee of myself, a board member, and then we'll have an individual from the West Michigan Conservation Network, their steering committee, that also is on that interview piece. So that person will be the board liaison, the representative to kind of convey any message and report back to the board on those activities. Same with financials and whatever it is that we need to move forward on. That's what I need for committees, and the thought process I have between that type of committee and maybe something like us working on events, because nothing specifically happens from one month to that next month where I can't do something. So working on an event, we can form a committee to work on an event, but I don't think it needs to have an official, that's just my thought process. I think that changes based on the event or the activity or.
Well, and I think we had talked a little bit too about, kind of formalizing a marketing committee kind of thing, because that isn't really formalized right now, especially with a lot of our goals being about awareness. So I could see that being a useful piece for that too.
I would love that to even be more than just ourselves. The marketing PR piece, right? So while I'd like to see a committee that includes the board, I'd also like to see that broader.
What do you
Just-
mean? What would that look like?
Well, like if you have a marketing committee and then you have key people that really support you, right? Maybe you have a couple of people that are just diehard, love the conservation.
Who would that be?
That's a good
Like
question.
a volunteer who's gonna,
Correct, yeah, a
Okay.
volunteer, right? Or maybe, I'm just throwing that out as an example. So to think a little bit more broadly about all the people that can help you put the word out about, right, all the things that we're doing. So I'm just throwing that out there as kind of like an idea, because it kind of is gonna take all of us to get the word out about what we're doing, and there's probably ways to
yeah, but we
engage.
all, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I
I
was
mean,
just,
we all can't be on the committee. I guess that's the idea for the committee to go off and do your specialty thing and then bring that back to the board and, you know, so I mean, I think that's up to the committee who you find for your backing or who's gonna be on your committee with you. As far as, you know, it's kind of like Roger being here tonight. The whole board don't come tonight. They send Roger, you know, and he's a committee that deals with the conservation district. You know, he don't have a whole bunch of, you know, again, it ain't the whole board of commissioners, you know, he takes what we got back. So I mean, same thing with our, yes, we need a board presence on a committee like that, but again, and, you know, we can't meet with more than 2 people at a time, you know, Public Meetings Act. So, I mean, we can't load a committee up with a whole bunch of board members. So, you know, there can't be more than 2
I'm
on
not
it.
sure that it's something that I'm interested in pursuing. I don't know if that has any weight, but I can't quite wrap my head around how I would utilize this committee at the moment. I think I have staff that really enjoy their work. They take a lot of ownership of their work. You know, half of Sarah's time is outreach, and that's relatively new. And I would say a fourth to half of Lexi's time is probably outreach as well. But it gets really tricky because each one of these grants and each one of these programs has a small portion that is an outreach piece. You know, there's a small portion of Alex's job that is specifically to outreach. There's a small portion of Karen's job that's specifically to outreach. And it's just a tricky piece to understand. I guess I really like the idea of rebranding, what you talked about, Rivka, with branding. And I have every intention of utilizing the resources in this room. I'm not sure that I want more involvement in that just yet. I'm not really sure the take I have from my staff on what they want to see, because they do take a lot of ownership in this type of work. So I'm just not sure that that's where we're at. I do foresee us utilizing the skill sets. My thought would be, I wouldn't want this yet until I had more formalized maybe boundaries around what it would be and what it would look like, so I could wrap my head around it better. And maybe it's something that we revisit in a few months. I don't know if that helps.
Well, why don't you and me get together over the next 30 days and talk about what committees in what place and points you would like help with. And then we can bring that back to the board and talk about, you know, what we need now.
I don't think I
Well,
need
isn't
help.
the challenge too that, I mean, you can go and promote, make this, you know, this organization, bring the awareness more, but you're limited by the grants. You're not, it's not as though you can just go out and spend all kinds of money or,
Time.
you know, and people that, you know, you might get somebody excited about, you know, conservation.
Yeah.
But they, all of a sudden, they find out that, well, there's any grants for that, you know, or, you know, I'm just thinking you're limited by the grants.
Yes, and
And it's not as though you've got all this money, you've got grants, that's it.
yeah.
Well, and I would add to that, like, messaging is so important. So where I would see bringing additional people in would be if we have a specific campaign we're trying to do and we
And I
need
love that.
envelopes stuffed, or we, you know, we need like flyers handed out door to door. I mean, that's a great opportunity,
yeah, that's
but I
what I'm
don't
talking
think,
about.
like, I think that's gonna be on like a campaign by
I
campaign
think so too.
basis.
And I think we've been doing that, you know, as things come up and as we've seen that we need help or we want your expertise. I don't think there needs to be a formal committee. Not that there may not ever need to be that, but I definitely want more structure around it before I feel like I would pull my staff into something to that. Time is one of the big factors to, you know, just time and money.
I think
I meant to get back to you this month, you know, prior to this meeting to talk about the different committees. And I kind of dropped the ball on you the last week or so.
Okay.
Let's, like I say, let's you and I discuss that. We started.
Well, we do need, unless you guys have a big problem with finance and HR committee, I would like to get that done today.
Okay.
So could we
Are we appointing people to the committees?
No,
Uh,
that's
it
what your
says committee
chairman does.
assignments.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's-
so
yeah.
there you would point, so, the finance is pretty typical with, the treasurer and usually the chairman, as both of you will be on the bank account, but the HR is, you know. How do you guys wanna do it?
Well, I guess again, I mean, the finance, again, we talked about. We signed the check, so I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's always kind of been the chairman and the treasurer. And then your human resource, you know, again, starts with the treasurer. So, you know, he's always been, that person has always been on it. So, and I guess, you know, again, I dropped the ball with, who to talk to on your human resources. Do you need a human resource yet this month?
So, yeah, so I needed two people, so that, and like I said, this will involve interviews. And they're typically an hour apiece, and I am interviewing for a big job. So you will probably have 8 to 10 hours invested in this position. It's not like last year, where you had 88 interviews to do, but,
Yeah, last year it was crazy.
yeah, but this year, I know I have one. And then the other thing that comes into play will be reviews. And so then that is the other time that I use a board member for staff reviews and for our reviews as well as board reviews. So that takes a little bit of time. So I would say in August and September, you need to be able to give me another 10-ish hours in addition in those 2 months. So if that's something that any of you are interested in, know that it does have a time commitment piece to it.
You got time commitment? You got, you got commitment
I
issues?
don't feel I should sign up for that.
Rivka, would you?
I mean, if there's nobody else, I don't feel like I have specific skills to bring to that, but I'm happy to talk to people and I'm good at asking questions, so. You know, I don't know if that's something you have interest in, Kelly, or
I
not.
served on the Human Resources Committee, I think the first year I came on, so.
So she's like, nope. Yeah,
I've done
I'm
my
happy
time.
I'm happy to participate if that's helpful.
I do
Well,
make
let's
it,
put Doug and myself on finance and then Doug and Rivka on human resource.
Congratulations.
Oh, you stare at him. Wow.
Well, that was
I
entertaining.
can see the excitement.
excitement.
I can see the excitement. Wow. Could I get a motion to that, please? What we, the four people, the two committees that we just.
Okay, I move that Doug and Matt are on the finance committee and Doug and Rick are on the human resources committee. Okay.
Is there a second?
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed?
Can't.
You have your committees.
can't mirror mine to that right now. Would it hurt the Zoom?
I can disconnect from the TV. And
But it hurts us.
no, it wouldn't do anything except the TV.
So I'm
Can you
saying
connect
motion to
fast?
create a finance committee with Doug and Matt and a HR committee with Matt and Rivka. right?
No,
Doug.
Doug
Doug.
and
I'm gonna
Rivka.
That's like, Donna signed that, no.
All right, cool, got it.
Moved and supported. You're good?
Yeah.
Perfect. Is our finance lady ready?
I am, but I just had a little technical difficulty, so give me 2 seconds. I wanted to share some spreadsheets with you, but I do want to put them up on the TV, so bear with me as I send them to. We're a little new at this, so
When we go to our finances, is that all over the TV land or?
it's gonna go up on TV.
No,
well, a
does it
little
go out to
It can.
our finance, Ken? Okay.
Yeah, there's no reason. It's not secret. I'm actually really proud of it, so.
There you go.
Show it off, show it
I
off.
was like, no, I really want to show this. It took me a minute.
Is Sarah on yet?
Sarah's on, I think.
I don't see her on.
see, yep,
Oh,
Sarah,
yeah.
Natalie and Lisa are still
Okay,
on.
all right.
Sarah did have a quick, but earlier when you were talking about the RCPP stuff, she did say that she did have that on the intake and it has been on her mind. She just hasn't like about that data, but she totally agrees.
Okay,
You know, when you prove them.
I'm almost there.
Almost there. Wait, this must really
Next
be
time I'll send
exciting.
these to you ahead of time. Lexi.
Yeah, I
didn't
we'll
really
get it
realize.
down.
We're learning.
While she's looking that up, Matt, the MACD summer conference made it on here, but the day in
Legislative.
Lansing did not actually
Yeah.
make it on here.
I didn't bring it back on, not for any reason other than that I didn't know if it needed to be talked about. But we can.
I don't want to distract you from what you're doing. I don't know
I'm
if we
done,
need
so you
to
let me know when you
discuss
see it.
that or just, since we had a lull, I figured I'd.
Pull up the April profit and loss for me. So we'll start with the profit and loss. Which is this document here. You also have it in your packet. I do a comparison from this year to last year. Now, you do have to keep in mind that last year's profit and loss reflects the entire year, where this year only reflects up until the end of April. I have broken down our programs into their specific income streams. So you see what we're bringing in through the district, through the meat program, our invasive species programs, and our watershed and ag program. It gives you a glance of what we brought in this year. And when I talk about fiscal years, always remember that's October 1st through September 30th. The bottom half shows you up to this point in time, the expenses we have spent out of each one of these categories. So it's a snapshot, helping you see where we're at. I do always advise that due to the reimbursement piece, the way that we get funding back through grants, that the negative number is not something to feel uncomfortable with. And I'll show you why here in a few minutes. And you'll see this a lot. You'll see it go up and down from that negative to positive number. If you go to your balance sheet, this is a snapshot of our current financial situation. So the first thing you see is that our checking account has negative $93,000 in it. It doesn't actually have negative. I have just run all the bills. So that amount will need to be transferred into our checking. You also see, which is important, and I'm always showing Doug so he doesn't freak out on me, the account receivables. That's what I have invoiced out and will be coming in over the next, will all be in the next 30 days. So that tends to be the way it works. After a quarter, I get reimbursed from different grants under different timing, anywhere from some as fast as a week to 45 to 60 days it might take for a reimbursement. Right now, I have the longest reimbursement is 45 days. So when I get that in, I'll have to wait that period of time until I get reimbursed from them. So when I talk about carrying an expense, we carry staff expenses for 4 months at a time or more, depending on how fast they reimburse. But that just gives you a snapshot. And then what I use down here, you'll see some of the liabilities that we have that are on the books, things like vacation time, that type of stuff. So all that gets subtracted out of our bottom line. And then you'll see our total equity. It is that number that I use for our snapshot piece. So if you want to pull up our financial piece. Yep.
That's the 206 number, correct?
No, I use the 190. 193.
197?
Yep.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep, now I'm with you.
Which it's almost the same. I must have done this twice. But you'll get the idea. So if you see our grant spreadsheet, this I like because then it gives you another view of the funding we have coming in. So these are all of our active grants. They span anywhere from a year to 5 years, and you get an idea of how much we've spent in each grant and where we sit. it's not perfect, but it does give you a snapshot. It also tells you how long the grant is and what type of indirect we have. And indirect, again, for refreshers, is an overhead amount that we get on grants that is accessible by the entity to pay for any expenses that weren't incurred, that aren't able to write off on the grant. So we typically get 10%. So you have that snapshot. You look at the closed door fund is what I like to call it. That's different than what's in our bank account. This is what we would have if we reimbursed and gave back anything that any advances we were holding. If we did all of that and reconciled everything at the end of the day, the district would have around $150,000 in the bank. That's not what we have in the bank. That's what is ours right now. Does that make sense? Am I helping give a picture? The next piece I did, which I'm actually really excited about, and I don't think I sent you the right one because I can see it and I don't like it. I have like a draft and yours has highlights on it. I'm gonna send you a better one.
Projections.
Yeah, I don't like it. So I want to talk about this because one of the things that then comes up often to me and when I'm having conversations with Doug is, can we do this? Is it even fluid? Do we have the funding at this point in time? And I couldn't always answer that question. I knew it in my head, but I couldn't always show it on paper. And I've been working pretty hard at trying to be able to do that. And so I think this is going to be a cool graph for you to take a look at. I wish I could control it. So I'm not loving this. Because it's a big table. And you're going to have to move around on it for me, Lexi.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've pulled up those financials, and next time we'll try to get them into like downloaded PDFs so that they
Something a
show
little
up on
different.
screen less like a work table.
Yeah, so I apologize for this piece. I just thought I'd be able to like pop it right on up there.
That's the one you showed me earlier.
The snapshot one is always very handy with where we're at and what we got to go.
Except I think I made this on Friday and then I reconciled the rest of our native plant orders on today. And I don't think this number doesn't match that number. But you get the idea.
Haven't gotten it yet.
You have one.
Don't you hate that when you
Oh, there
send
you
an
go.
email and you want it to be there right away and then it takes like 30 minutes?
That has to go up to space and come back down. So
Okay, so this isn't as big as I would love it. But what I want to point out a few things. First, you'll see all of our active grants and funding streams. So you see, in green are most of our SISMA, are all of our SISMA work. I separate it just for my own head. That's all SISMA. The blue is all the water quality work. I probably should then separate out these colors too. But what I did was I took each one of these programs that we're receiving funding in, and I started to break it down. Can you just scroll over? I don't want to see this. You don't want to see which part? Scroll this over a little bit. They can't see this.
Yeah, it's pretty
Okay.
small.
Scroll up for me. Okay, so one of the things you're going to see, this might sense, it might not. I start in October, at the beginning of our fiscal year, we have in the bank. So remember, we have these close the door funds. That's what we have, but that's not what's in the bank. I want to know what's in the bank and can I really make it 4 months? And if I buy trucks, am I gonna, bust our budget and we're not gonna be able to afford payroll? That's hard for me. So it was hard to say yes or no, or we're okay. So this is a helpful. So I use this number that was within the bank account at the beginning of October. And then I take all of these programs and I plug in what we received and what went out. So scroll down for me, Alexi. The biggest piece that was in this that I wanted to point out is you'll see payroll here. So I have payroll coming out each month. Our bills, they average about this every month.
And then I started to add in truck, you can't see it, but truck payments are here. But this was, again, an exercise for me to understand whether or not we can afford it. We get this money and I spend it on trucks, can I afford that in this month? The end result would be that at the beginning of 105, as I'm adding and subtracting each one of these programs and what I'm bringing in there each month, can go all the way to the end. What you'll see here, so we started off with 105,000. We'll end October with somewhere around 122,000. On one, I'm not losing money. That's a big thing to understand, that I'm not going negative. That's something that's hard for me to wrap my head
Is your
around.
truck in that negative?
My truck is in
Okay.
this with $2,600 car payments.
Okay.
The lowest month we get is here in August and September, which we still have 30,000 in the account. This is a big deal that I'm able to see this, because this was a hard thing for me to wrap my head around. This made it possible for me to understand whether or not we can afford these trucks. It also will make it possible for us to talk about, can we afford, you know, a second person? Let's say we wanted another district employee. Could we afford that? I have a way of seeing what's going to happen to our bank account, and that's been really fun. So I've been wanting to show you guys this. It's helpful. It's not all in my head. And I think it will help you guys get an idea of the flow of the finances. So this was the piece I really did want to point out. And we'll also go into this truck piece when we get to it, because I do want to get approval on purchasing vehicles. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But before I do that, I think we probably need a motion. Oh, I can answer questions and then we'll need a motion to pay the bills.
I think it looks fantastic. This is really helpful.
Is there a motion to pay the bills? I need a motion to pay the bills.
Sure, I make a motion.
I'll say all at once.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
The second one, these two kind of go together. I wanted to give you an update on the request for contract revision from the county. I had met with the county administrator, Roger and Paul Sachs earlier last month in regards to this contract. As you guys know, our current contract had stated that if the state had given back operational funding, or given that district's operational funding, that we would then repay the county. And I went back to the county and said that I'd like to take a look at this verbiage this year based on our needs, and that this funding to the district is a one-time deal right now. I hope that funding continues to come through, but we don't know that. And seeing that we had some real capital investment needs with our vehicles, I went to the county and had asked for this revision. After meeting with the finance committee, presenting to them, we were able to take that to the county board meeting, and that was approved. So we are able to keep that 40,000 in our coffers, and I'll move on to the next bullet item, kind of a nice transition. We are looking at upgrading our vehicles. So Doug and I have really just began that process. We've had some things in mind, but didn't want to actually officially move forward till that was all signed. We're looking at taking that 40,000 that was allocated and using it as a down payment and on 4 vehicles. Maybe it might be 3. We're still not 100% on what the costs will be. We're working with some dealerships right now to on prices, and we think we have one that's really interested in doing some promotional. They want to do some promotional work. We would, do a big fanfare. We need stickers. I'll put our magnets on the car. I'm fine with that. Maybe Roger can come shake hands. We could make a whole PR thing up, but they were excited by that. And so one of the dealerships has already kind of verbally said we would be willing to go 1,000 over our price, which would be really cool if that could happen. This is all very new. But what I need from you all is that if I were to look at 4 vehicles, they're ranging from, they're about 50,000 a vehicle. So what I need is approval to, to look into leases for these 4 vehicles in, not leases, I'm sorry, to financing, thank you. Financing these 4 vehicles over the next 5 to 7 years, depending on the cost of the of the monthly payment. I have been able to set aside safely $2,600 a month that could cover those payments. So depending on what kind of deal we get, it could be less. That's what I'm hoping, but I'm giving ourselves some wiggle. I need approval to be able to finance $200,000 in vehicles if needed or less, so that I can move forward and purchase these cars.
So,
Yes, please.
so the biggest reason she's asking, so we don't come up. Things are kind of playing out a little fast right now, but it's all good. And one of the dealerships offered us $1,000 over cost, but I have to order them 6 to 8 weeks. So that's why we didn't want to wait another 4.
Right.
So just kind of get in the range. Not like we try to keep anything, we can come up with a big plan, show it to everybody, but we'd like to vote so we can just keep moving forward on this purchase.
I have a question.
Sure,
You're gonna purchase 4 in 1 year,
4 right away.
and how many years do you think they will last? Will that service our needs until the payments are met?
It'll last 7 years.
Okay, so.
We wanted them to go 5,
Okay.
but we think the payments are coming out to where it's touching. And we want to see, do we need 4? You can go out there and kick the tires, but don't kick it too hard and I fall off. And I'm thinking, I'm a guy here that never wants to spend any money, but I worry about people driving those things. My biggest thing.
And what we get from those vehicles as we sell them, we will then, put back into.
Use it.
Yeah, that was gonna be
whatever,
my next
but-
question is what's the plan with the
We'll wait
old trucks?
until, because this is strike team season, they're gonna start using them right away. So it would have been better if this was done 2 months ago, but that's not life, so.
What did
they'll-
the county tell you? And you went to them and asked for the 40 or
They approved it.
okay.
Yeah, county was 4 to get the vehicles.
They didn't really particularly care. I mean, we didn't discuss how I'm gonna get the vehicles. We just discussed whether I could use that money.
Well, and I'm guessing, like, I totally agree with, making sure people are safe when they're driving. And then you have additional costs that come into play if a vehicle breaks down, that, towing.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming too, with newer vehicles, they're gonna be more fuel efficient and, I mean, obviously they're
Oh,
still a
for
truck,
sure.
And
Yeah.
warranties.
but.
Take that big V8 Sierra out there,
Yeah.
that thing's sucking some gas at $4.50 a gallon. You're pretty soon.
Well, and we'll have warranties. So
Mhm.
that's huge. I spent a little over $9,700 on repairs this
Yeah.
year. on
So,
those
I mean,
4
to me, it
vehicles.
makes a lot of sense just from the cost savings from all those other incidentals that may not be
Okay,
obvious.
so you're
but-
talking 200,000,
Mhm.
give or take, kind of what kind of deal you come up with. I guess, is there a motion to move forward with that idea?
I have one more question. So what kind of trucks are you looking at and the cost you said?
I'll tell you when we get out of the meeting, 'cause
Oh, okay.
No, well, we're
I
looking
don't
at
want to
4 work
advertise
trucks.
because we're looking at 2
Yeah, we're looking at 2
right now.
companies
We
right
have
now.
not chose.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Well,
it'll be a 4-wheel drive. It'll be
Yeah.
extended cab.
Yeah.
And it will have, it'll be basic. It won't have it doesn't need like all the bells and whistles inside.
Mhm.
Right.
Crew cab with 4-wheel drive. That's that's what we're asking for.
Yeah.
Did you look through the state's program, though?
I looked through some rental car companies.
Through the county's purchase? The
They-
county has a purchase program.
They do, well, the county, I did ask,
Did you ask about that?
yeah, and they're in a contract with Enterprise.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it sounds like they sell them they go to them after the fact. Like I can't buy them from the county.
We've always had a hard time with that. I mean, everybody talks highly of it, but. when
I
we-
looked into Avis.
And we
They
said-
had some cars pretty reasonable on them. But
Okay.
that's one thing we got kicking around in our
Yeah,
head.
yeah,
is,
yeah.
You know,
I'm just
we went from the
asking.
used,
Yeah.
semi-used, so
Yeah,
they had
yeah,
some type
yeah,
of warranty.
yeah, yeah.
And we're a decent vehicle. We looked at some
Yeah.
smaller Chevy trucks.
Yeah.
And they weren't that priced, but, and you only had 30,000 miles on them.
But you know, this is like an investment. It's probably gonna be a 10-year investment.
It is a big investment.
How many miles do we put on a truck? Ish.
You know, I wish I had that in front of me. I could tell you. I
I mean,
wanna
they
say, I
said
wanna
for-
say it's probably a good 15,000.
Yeah.
Depending on the truck, because the two that we use for HWA, we travel a lot
I
more.
go to Ludington.
The two that we use here would be less.
My comment, go back to my, is it wise to do this all in one big package every time, or should we do 2 now and 2 years from now, and so? it's
We're
continually
trying,
revolving
we're
door?
still, see, what we're asking for is, I'm gonna ask for the whole thing, but we're gonna put together what we can really do, okay? Not asking,
Or is
Well, I
the
mean,
deal
we're
better to
approving
buy
it.
them all at one time?
well, I'll tell you right now, everything's going up in price, like by the month, like 10%. And that's the only reason we're getting this deal, because we're ordering, because
Gotcha.
Yeah.
nobody has any stock really, but they do, but they're gonna charge you more.
Okay.
So that's the only reason we're asking, just so we got a little leeway to keep moving.
You gotta
And
lock-
I mean,
You gotta lock the price in now.
I don't have a price.
Yeah,
I got
you
it
gotta lock
fixed.
it in as soon as you can.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, we'd like to.
which I think will be done by the end of the week. She'll have a good cost.
I bet we
And the
will.
same thing with the financing. You gotta lock that in.
Yeah, that's going up.
ASAP too, yeah.
That just went up.
Any other
It's
questions
gonna go more.
on it? So I guess what I'm looking for is a number. I'm assuming we gotta have a number for
200,000.
this motion.
200,000.
200,000.
We won't go over that.
And we're gonna
It could very
use,
well be under it.
and we're gonna use $10,000 per vehicle for a down payment.
Which was the piece
Yeah,
that was
that's in
allocated.
Then
Okay, I make a motion to approve up to $200,000 financed and $40,000 in down payment funding from the district to purchase 4 new vehicles.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Good, Ben?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Get that Hummer next week.
Yeah.
Only 2 vehicles.
No, you gotta recuse yourself from the vote.
Yeah.
Electric ones?
They're 90 grand minimum.
Oh.
Grants.
Okay, so this is kind of, we're getting to the end of our meeting. I'd like to update you guys where we're at with our grants. You know, this is the first time in several months we haven't been preparing one. So we're not preparing any grants at the moment.
Because
And
Ben is nesting.
yeah.
It's been nice.
And we're also not executing any grants at the moment. So we just have a few that we're waiting on, that are pending. We have our Bass River Deer Creek Restoration Project, Phase 4, that is pending. I think I could probably say with a little bit of a caveat that I'm not sure this one is gonna come through. This one might not be one that there's a lot of competition this year, and we have a lot of funds from Eagle doing a lot of different work. So I'm not sure. That's just my feel. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I'm not sure. I do think that if next year we go back to do a 319, we're probably pretty good. We also have the Midwest Cover Crop Initiative from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation that we're waiting on. I have no feel for this one way or the other. It's the first time we've ever applied with them. Then put together a really good application. It would help us with technical assistance throughout the whole county. So we'll wait and we'll see. We also have our SAGO grant, Sustain Our Great Lakes out, and this is for some projects with invasive species management. We don't really also have a very good feel on this one either. It would be a newer line of funding for us. We don't have a relationship with these funders particularly, but they put together a really good grant. So we're waiting. It'll be interesting to see how those all come out. But as a side note, we don't get every grant we apply for. We've been really fortunate that we have gotten so many that we've applied for. So I just always want to make sure that we're aware that it doesn't take away the project or the work or that type of thing. It just might not have been the right funding stream. And often if we do not get a project, we go back to that grantor and ask, what would you have liked to see? What could we have changed to make this grant more competitive? And we often get really good feedback. So that's really important to ask those questions, kind of the same way you might if you're applying for a job. And that helps us. We do have some things we're gonna apply for here in the fall, but we can talk about that as we get closer.
So what happens? So if there's no phase 4 of the Bass River Deer Creek, does that stop? Our 319 will expire next summer or something like
The
that?
Bass River Deer Creek grant will expire September 30th of this year. Mhm.
And then
Now-
that stops the work basically?
Mhm.
Okay.
We do have now RCPP, which could take over some of that cover crop and initiative that's been moving in that area.
Just to add something, several of the landowners that did apply for RCPP were Bass Deer landowners, because I did get some, again, it's not fully confirmed, but I got a little bit of info that we probably won't get funded for Bass Deer, so we kind of hurried up and tried to shove a few of the Bass Deer landowners over to RCPP. Some applied, some didn't. We still have sand crockery, obviously, so we're good there. But with that being said, this fall, we plan on applying for pigeon anyways, once that watershed management plan is done, and I've been told by Eagle that the pigeon is right next to the Bass Creek anyways, so if we're gonna apply, just throw the bass and the
Back on
deer in all in one application, so.
There's potential, and there's no one's gonna lose their job. Everyone has funding for the next 3 years. And so we're not in any place there where by not getting this, Ben doesn't have income coming in. So that's also a piece. This just adds, these two other programs would add security, not just for our programs, but for the services we can provide to the county.
Alrighty,
Um,
do we need to vote on the Armonk property?
No, it's for information, but I guess I need approval of the application.
Go for it, what's your question, sir?
Well, when I read that whole thing, and then it said Carmody on there.
Yeah, Maureen Carmody is not she is not the,
Oh, did we print it wrong?
it's gotta be Teresa Frank, I think.
Okay. I'll print another one off then for you to sign that.
But it's Armonk, and then I seen the Carmody.
Well,
Is that Carmody's where the engine thing was?
Yeah. She was the township clerk for a while, but she got voted out a year ago. She's not-
Okay,
she's
well,
not
then we
happy.
need to-
So that's probably what happened, is that I probably used a template from last year.
Okay.
in that township.
Yeah.
All right, let's fix
I think
that.
it's Teresa Frank,
Okay. I can do that right now.
Which township is?
right?
Right.
Okay. I know I recognize the name. There's Armox and
Yeah, there's
Chester.
yeah, there.
Oh, I don't have the word version.
Armonk's on.
He lives on 8th Avenue, right? in the church.
they have property even north of all that too.
A lot of different Armonks.
Yeah.
So we just need to accept that Ben reviewed the application, that we accept the application, and then we're good.
Can we accept it pending he gets the verbiage right?
He's doing it.
I can print it
Oh,
out right now, actually.
I guess in essence of time, trying to get you out of here by 8:30. And I didn't see it till now, and can we discuss our planning, our 5-year or strategic plan?
Oh, Adam,
And can we take 5 minutes and do that, or I know it's not on the agenda?
or
but
do we
can-
need to make a motion to add it to the agenda as something we discuss? Or can we
Does
just
anybody want
discuss
to make
it?
that motion?
I'll make the motion, because I think we need to discuss.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Okay.
Sorry, just a moment. Sorry about that. What was the motion?
To add a agenda item for strategic planning update or discussion.
Okay, where is that going?
Just put it right under the last bullet point there under preparing.
Okay, motion to
Yeah.
add agenda item to discuss the strategic planning.
Mhm.
And who made the motion?
Doug
Support.
and
Kelly.
Kelly support.
Sorry, I was editing.
I apologize, I thought it was on the back side of the paper, that's why.
That's fine. I didn't,
jumping on really earlier.
I knew there was something I was forgetting.
So- Do we have to vote to put it on the agenda?
Yes,
Wow.
if to vote to amend the,
I was like, you just seconded
Agenda.
it.
so, all those in favor of discussing it? Say aye. Opposed? Go for it, Doug.
Okay, easy. Tim and I were on the committee for the strategic planning. And then you guys want to be on, I say Kelly with it. There's no big deal, but you can't have 4 board members on a meeting like that
You can if you post it.
Yeah.
As a board meeting.
as a board meeting.
Yes.
So what do you guys?
Well, I
want?
guess my understanding was that it was just like, it was an extension of the strategic planning, that we
But
weren't
can't
necessarily
make a
adding
Decision
the
or
current.
anything, so.
Well,
I mean,
I
you wanna just-
might be getting a little too far into the weeds, because when she presents a draft, you know what I mean, we can approve that at a later date. It's really just working the draft is how I see it.
Okay, my question, all this, do we get paid every time she calls us, every time we text, every time, you know,
She gets
and
paid.
what did she get? Well, yeah, she gets paid, heck, yes, I mean, we are paying,
Official meetings, you would be paid.
no, not us,
Oh.
her as a business.
We've already agreed to a set dollar amount.
So
for
she's
her
gonna
work.
get us a strategic plan for X amount of money.
Yep.
If it takes her
I thought
6
she
months
went over
or
and
6
above,
weeks.
too.
Mhm.
I thought there was certain conditions, more travel and stuff, she got paid.
No, I think it's all, it was all,
All inclusive.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't-
I think we agreed to a dollar amount.
Dollar amount, no matter what we do.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it was a set dollar amount.
But the 4 of you are meeting to talk about this?
Well, we,
Yeah, help me understand how
you can't do
it's
that.
different from our
Yeah.
strategic planning meeting that we had already, where everybody was present.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we
It's,
did.
it's posted.
You
If
posted
you're-
that, correct?
No.
We don't,
Oh,
No,
I'm
we
sorry.
did not. I mean,
But you-
that was why.
But
I
you
don't
set,
think a
you set
strategic
the,
plan
you
is
set
supposed to be
the date
Yeah.
at
Every
this
time
meeting,
more than
right?
3 of us
Yes.
meet, it needs to be
So-
posted.
But
Technically,
even if
it's
we're not
making a
posted, even
decision
though
about
you didn't.
something?
Correct, that's you are
Do
a
you, do
quorum.
you post these meetings someplace? On your website or something like
Not, I did not post a strategic planning meeting, no.
that? Okay. but
That's
you-
why I thought it would be fine to just be like, whatever I can help with, because
But
to
if I
me, it was
need
just an
to-
extension of that meeting.
If I need to, I will. I might be missing something. So
I think we can just
I
do it
don't
on the
think-
door, can't we?
I
X
would
many
rely
hours ahead
on
of
your
time.
advice on whether or
Yeah.
not I should. So
You
the
just
4 of
throw it on the
them,
Anytime you have a quorum, you're supposed to.
so it would just be considered a special meeting.
Yep.
and we can just post that on the door 18 hours in advance. That's
believe
the
so.
requirement.
If you have-
so if we're gonna go as far, have 4 people, why don't we have the other ones and just do it at a regular board
Because she
meeting or
couldn't-
something?
She couldn't do, she has a specific time frame that she allotted for us. That was,
That's a lot to add to a board meeting.
Mhm.
Those are supposed to be.
and she
short
didn't,
sessions.
she didn't,
I can't believe she don't. I mean, what more has she got to do yet? I mean, what we covered the other day, I mean, didn't we write it and we're good to
So,
go? I
the
mean,
next session is to review the draft that she put together. So it'll be an opportunity for us to read that, give our feedback, add, subtract, and have those conversations. So then she can go back and finalize that draft. You know, she can't really write the strategic plan without our input and without our feedback. And so, yes, that it is necessary. I think that she was long-winded. I did not. A lot of the stuff she had presented to us in our strategic planning meeting, she presented to us at our, this first meeting. So I would say half of that meeting we had already heard. So it was a little
Yeah.
bit,
It's like
that
reading.
was a little bit unfortunate. I thought that we could have either utilized that time in a better way or we could have shortened the time. So I'm not sure what the next piece will look like. I'm hoping it'll be a little bit more productive in that way. I think that was a little bit of a waste of time, but that's neither here nor there. what I
could you
think.
do that virtually?
We are doing it virtually.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I have a question. Because I wasn't here, is there anything I need to read before the next one?
So just her draft
No.
that she had put together,
Yeah.
she put together a draft of kind of what we all talked about and what we envisioned. And so if you check that out, I think I think that will give you a good.
There was one thing that I forgot, and I did email about this, that we had brought up one time about an endowment of some sort. And I thought that was worth revisiting because we were talking about, you know, our finances and kind of dreaming a little bit about what could be possible. I think that's worth,
I don't remember that conversation, so if you want to kind of fill us in what your thoughts
Well,
were.
can you talk about that a little bit right now? Because we're about ready to buy 4 trucks.
Well, I
Really,
did a
that's gonna be a
little,
huge investment
I did a
for a
little.
long time.
Right, I did a little investigation for a nonprofit I was consulting for about what it would take to establish an endowment. So, you know, I'm gonna use $1 million as an example, because it's easy to kind of calculate how. So if you fundraise and establish an endowment of $1 million, that would pay out, the interest from that would pay out $50,000 a year or something to that effect. Cut that in half, you know, half of that. So like the endowment would be like unrestricted dollars that, and you would just put the endowment in the bank and let the interest, and you spend the interest basically. I thought an endowment might be a good idea because we were talking about how grants ebb and flow, your money ebbs and flows, and by establishing something like that, you would have a consistent stream of funds coming at you every month from the interest of this thing, and then you could kind of spend it how you want. I mean, some endowments will keep a certain level of money in the account. Some of that gets really huge over time, so there's kind of a yin and a yang there of like, well, you've got all this money. But I thought an endowment might be a nice financial instrument for us to do. We'd have to think about how you would put that together, and how you would fundraise for it. So there's like a thing about it, but if you established one, I thought that would be a great way to keep the conservation district afloat forever. So
We've never really did good on fundraising. I mean, how much did you guys raise for the party?
well, we
Well,
just
we
talked
just
about
had our
it
meeting
today.
today. I have a
Well, you got
possible,
like 4 weeks.
yeah, well, get back to me like tomorrow and I'll answer that
Okay.
question.
No,
I mean, we've never done good on it, ever.
Yeah,
there's an art to it.
All right,
I will say on
We're going
other
down a
committees
rabbit
and
hole here,
projects
so-
I've done in the
Yeah.
past, I tend to be pretty good at fundraising, but
$1 million, good?
Yeah.
No,
I, you know,
not
that
quite
would be a new
good, but-
challenge, but I'm all for trying to stretch, you
All
know,
right.
goals.
Ben, did you get done what you
I
needed to
hear what
get
you're
done?
saying. I like the, I
You're-
like the
Yes,
idea.
I printed those
Of
up.
course,
I'll
the
do
very
that.
first thing that comes to my mind is time and money.
Mhm.
When, and skill set, who would even do all that, you know, and we're already stretched to the thinnest that you can be. So that's of course the very first thing that pops in my mind, but I think the idea is
Good
one that
idea.
has
Well,
a lot of
the
merit.
Strategic plan is your dream.
Right, it has a lot of
Um,
merit.
So
Mhm.
not necessarily like, you know, that stuff kind of comes later, but I just want to encourage everyone to dream big.
So we're gonna do
You know.
about this meeting.
I like that.
We having it with all 4 there? It's
What
cool.
meeting?
Oh, I just
The
have to post it.
strategic plan.
I have to
I
post
just
it.
post it.
I'll just put it on the door.
I wouldn't consider that, you know, because decisions aren't.
So if
being
you
made,
did,
but-
if you did consider something like that, though,
Okay.
the easiest and best.
The
way to
meeting
do
or
it-
the endowment?
Endowment, the
Okay.
best way to
And then you
consider
got
is to go through the community foundation. Because
Yeah, you can't do an endowment.
they
right now.
have a
It's-
lot of
They've,
those kinds of funds, endowment funds that they manage. And it's less
Yeah.
expensive. And everybody knows the community foundation
Mhm.
is a safe
That's a
place
great
to send
idea.
money.
And we have several around here.
Well, and I have a couple clinics at
You got
the
one.
Johnson Foundation too, like some other,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good thought.
did anybody want the minutes?
I'll
I
take
got
an updated
Oh,
copy,
I need
just-
to sign
we
this. This is-
adjourned?
That's
This
for
is
you to
my,
sign.
I only printed just the one
Do-
copy.
Send
the
them out
next
an
one.
email.
Do you want me to just send them out? I can
Yeah.
send it, or do you want it printed?
Are we adjourned?
Sending
I have a
those fine.
question before we adjourn. Do we got limitations on this meeting, what we can talk about?
what meeting?
The strategic plan?
Oh, I don't think so.
Are there limitations on what you can talk?
Like,
No.
okay,
I
all
don't
right,
think so.
that's all I need to know.
I would entertain a
Okay, well,
motion to.
real quickly, who is going to Lansing? do
Nobody.
that.
Just
Oh, no,
crew.
no. So I think
I know that's not true, because I'm going.
Yeah, we have a group going. So I've got Ben Jordan,
Uh-huh.
I have Sarah Bowman,
Okay.
Karen Dawson, Kyle Hildebrandt, and the two of you.
Okay.
My son's graduating that day, so I will be at commencement. I will take you. But what we've done and what Rick and I are gonna talk some more about this tomorrow, and this is just shooting from the hip idea, but my goal with that meeting is to come in prepared for how are we going to advocate for who we, for what we want to see.
Yeah.
And so I want to go in saying, my goal was to advocate for consistent funding for conservation districts. And to show that by investing 80,000 in a district, what you can do, how many, because that is what we get from the county. Let's say that is what the state gives to each one of these districts. What can you do? This is what we're able to do. These are the how many individuals we're able to serve in our community. This is the dollar amount that goes back into the community for the return on their investment. And so want to put together a one-page short, easy message to send to these legislators about you invest in a district, this is what a district can do by leveraging your funding. I think that it could be a message. And so I want to that's the message I want to convey to the individuals going. So we're all, when we are bragging about our programs, that we're bragging with purpose and can get something out of this. It sounds like right now, and we can talk about this later, Sarah is going to already be over on that side of the state, so she's going to meet us. Ben will just go straight from home.
Okay.
Karen and Kyle can leave from here, and I thought the two of you can ride together and leave from there, and then we'll just kind of all go like that.
Okay, cool.
So that's the idea.
Do we want me to meet? I would set up meetings with the legislature,
That we're waiting on,
or I mean,
Taylor.
or reps.
When I have an idea of how that day is gonna flow, because I did ask those questions, that is on my mind, because you had mentioned it last meeting.
Well, we
Your
better
sheet.
figure that out.
Your sheet with all your ideas on it, is there someplace, I mean, our reps all know.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's kind of,
I
you
think
go
I'll
to
share
Lansing, you speak to the
I
choir.
know, right?
I
I'm
mean,
not sure they do.
Well, the heck they don't.
Yeah,
I mean-
I mean, Roger Victory is a huge.
Show me one that don't, I
Yeah,
mean,
but they
from West
just shot,
Michigan.
there was there was
Yeah.
a thing on the floor, I
To
mean, and
fund
they
the
shot
fund.
that down.
Yeah, every
So they
Anyway,
don't
ours
know it.
no, and again, it would be in better hands to get that paper to, other reps who
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
figure it out, because like I say, ours got it.
Yeah.
I mean, so the money's there.
That's a good
But-
point. I
So
think-
anyway, but with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I can't make a motion, so is that your
I
motion?
move, I move.
Oh,
to it.
sure.
All right. All those in favor?
Motion,
This meeting.
No,
is that a rule?
That is
that's
parliamentary
parliamentary,
procedure.
yeah.
I didn't think that in partly Charlie.
He needs vote, but he
Okay, that may be the thing I'm thinking of.
There's Sam's,
Okay, and then I need the minute.
and when this is the minutes, do I sign the front page?